Hello, I'm Jill Martin, your host for Worth the Price of Admission. As a concert photographer, I had the incredible opportunity to capture unforgettable moments and connect personally with some of the most extraordinary people of our time. I'm deeply inspired by how individuals overcome obstacles to achieve their dreams. Join me as my guests reveal their unique journeys and untold stories, giving you an intimate look behind the scenes of their lives and explore the unforgettable experiences that have shaped who they are today. Each episode is crafted to inspire, educate, and entertain. So sit back and get ready. Every story is worth the price of admission. Hi, I'm Jill Martin, and today my guest is the multi-talented U.S. equestrian Doug Payne. Doug was part of our U.S. equestrian team in Tokyo in 2020. He and his wife, Jessica, own and operate an equestrian facility in Rosemont, North Carolina. He's also a pilot, where this summer he went to help with the incredible relief effort for Hurricane Helene. So sit back and we're going to find out what makes this guy tick. Doug, thank you for coming today. I'm very glad to have you. Very honored, yes. You're here for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Yay. And we're going to backtrack a little bit. So how did you know you wanted to ride? Going way back.
It wasn't, I don't know. It was not conscious decision that I woke up one day and said, I want to do this. But we were very lucky growing up on a farm. It's been in the family business forever. My mom's a judge. She's judge at 2 Olympic Games, both Rio and Hong Kong. So it's just something that in the end, walking out the back door was kind of the natural thing that everybody did, basically. It was.
And how old were you?
Oh, I would have no idea. I don't know. 5, whatever, by the time you got on the first time. But, on a competitive side, probably, 10-ish ballpark,
Sure.
I would guess. Just something early on. It's not certainly lucky enough to say. I couldn't remember the very first time I was on a horse, but my sister and I both rode through Pony Club, and initially for fun, and then you start to get more competitive and drives you to do more and get deeper in.
And mom and sister, everybody's still in the game?
Yeah, my mom's still actively competing and judging, and my sister, she's ridden through 5-star as well, and she's got a business up in New Jersey. Both are still living up there. And
that's where you grew up?
Yeah, so we grew up probably about 10 minutes from Gladstone, a little town called Oldwick. Born in Marstown, so about an hour west of New York City, half hour from Pennsylvania.
You went to school there for how long?
Well, high school there, and then went to college at Rochester Institute of Technology. So,
and you have a degree?
Degree in mechanical engineering. Yeah.
And why did you choose that?
Great question. Always been math and science interested, basically. Never thought I'd be riding professionally. I thought I'd kind of just do this on the side and just as a recreational side of it. And engineering allowed for just a wide range of options, and the financial implications would be good. Graduated college thinking I would do just that. I didn't, I guess going back a bit, they had ran on a quarter system at the time, RIT did. And so starting your second year, you interned with different companies. So 2 of those quarters, rather, I worked for a forensic engineer, did accident reconstructions, and had a great gig going, very interesting. The only catch, you either had to be a PhD or go through the state police to get into, basically admitted to court as an expert in your field. Didn't want to stay in school that long to get a PhD, so I figured I'd go through the state police. And after a series of academic, cognitive, personality tests, physical tests, whatever, was admitted into the academy, but the state went bankrupt. They kept pushing the start date off. And so in that interim 6-month period, I wasn't just going to sit around and do nothing. So started riding more and more, and got to the point where I was roughly making what I would made starting there. And
who did you ride with as a kid?
A really wide variety. We were very, very lucky where we grew up, just outside the team. And so, of course, my mom had a huge influence, but my mom ran the local pony club. And so we were very, very lucky to have then her network to tap into for instruction. And so Roger Haller, he's a longtime official and was designer of the Essex 3-day, was there. Sally Ike was an instructor we frequently had. Virginia Jenkins at the time. There's just a laundry list of people. And then, later on, a bit with George Morris, and then Ann Krasinski was quite close. So rode with Ann for quite a while in the earlier years.
Tough instructor, she is.
Yeah, but I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm,
just direct
absolutely.
To the point, get it,
Mm-hmm.
You'd rather not beat around the bush, because if you're there truly to improve and to learn, there's no point in getting a coddling direction. Just make it happen.
And when you were showing in that area, of course, the shows were abundance. Did you have a favorite?
So in growing up, we were primarily eventing with some dressage. I actually didn't go to my first straight jumping, show jumping competition until early 20s, I would say. But we were lucky enough, my dad helped build all the cross-country courses at the Essex Horse Trial. And so a lot of my early memories were at the USCT, just hanging out and having fun, flagging courses, mowing, whatever it might be. And, that always was certainly the pinnacle of our childhood, was riding there. And, it's pretty wild. You walk down the main barn and you see the plaques on the stalls of all the Olympic horses. It's, or go up to the trophy room, glass dance floor, awards everywhere. It's, a very, very special place. And we're lucky to be there frequently, for sure.
So why did you choose at that time? Because mom was into 3-day and sister was into 3-day. Is that why you guys stuck to that?
I guess so. Yeah. It was just what we did, and I think I think they've changed the direction a bit now, but through the US Pony Club, it was more eventing centric than not. At least it was in our experience. And so, having a varied skill set, I think, was advantageous. So, I think it was a wonderful way to start. And, obviously it took me places I could have never dreamed of, really.
That's for sure. And some beautiful courses. You rode 3-day for a very long time. And you mentioned earlier that you started to make more money than what you had gone to school for. How old were you when you started working as a professional?
So it's pretty interesting. In the jumping world, it's much more segmented, either amateur or professional. The lines are a lot more blurry when it comes to eventing. So I was riding horses for people, I guess you could say professionally. It wasn't my only income source, right? But even it really paid my way through college. And yeah, so quite early, it wasn't, in the jumping side of it, so much like, okay, now you're going to step in and you're going to be now a professional. And those lines were very blurry, and there was really no advantage one or the other. In the jumping side, there certainly is a distinct difference in the competitive arena and the eventing world. Everything is joined right together. And so I would say, technically, probably quite early was a professional, but standing on my own, our deal always growing up, we were very fortunate, right? We had, my sister and I both had one horse each. And then when we graduated high school, we had to sell whatever we had, and kind of on our time from that point forward. And so, it's a pretty interesting situation. I was very, very lucky. Speaking back at the USCT, Jimmy Wofford was one of my biggest mentors growing up, and he used to run a training camp in the middle of the winter for young riders, sort of a development idea for the area or zone equivalent. And they held it at the USCT, which was absolutely wonderful. And they allowed us to stay up there's apartments up over top. I think actually now they might be office space, but it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. And I got to say, he, sadly passed a couple years ago now, but his strike rate was astounding. I mean, I think of the core group, look back at some pictures. I mean, I would say probably 80% of the people that were there are now still, professionals making a difference. So that was, super special for sure.
And you did a DVD together.
Yeah. That was kind of early on. There was, now sort of GoPros or point of view cameras are pervasive, but they were seldom seen, maybe in race cars or whatever it might be. So engineering degree obviously comes in handy in that regard, and saw we could splice together some components. So I basically custom made a system to be able to do this, and thought it might be, huge advantage and help. So yeah, put together a DVD with Jimmy that, it really honestly sold very well, for its time. And early on, you're looking for an edge or a way to differentiate yourself, because, there's a lot of options out there. And that was one of the other things that pushed me into officiating. I got a judge's license at 26, and it's just trying to figure out a way earlier in your career to show that you have more than just what your competitive record would say.
How do you like judging?
It helped me more in the competitive riding arena than I could have ever imagined. The actual sitting in the box judging, it's interesting, but it's certainly very time consuming. And, at this stage in the game, with the number of horses and clients that we have, it just makes it really difficult to continue.
So when did you branch out away from New Jersey, running your own business?
So met my wife, Jess. We met in Aiken, and crazy enough, I actually was quite good friends with her mom before I even knew Jess. We had a Monday evening bowling league, basically, of everybody when they migrated down for the winter season. And dollar beers and, all that pretty relaxed atmosphere. So anyway, I was on Joan's bowling team. And
how did you get on Joan's bowling team?
I have no idea. That's a great question. I don't know, but Joan doesn't know a stranger. So we, so Joan and I hit it off, and we had a great time there. And yeah, one thing leads to another, and we got together. But basically, Jess grew up in Nashville. She was born in Canada, but I grew up in Nashville, and I was in Jersey at the time. And we got together. She moved up to Jersey for a bit. And she said, "I really think we should consider moving south or somewhere other than where we are now." And hadn't really crossed my mind, but she put a pretty compelling argument to doing it, and it's probably one of the best things that we've ever done, I think.
And when you met Jess, what was that like? Did you think she was the one?
I don't know that you ever know, like, right from moment one, but yeah, she's an incredibly special person, and without a doubt, sort of the other partner in crime that, frankly, there's no way we could be doing what we're doing without that partnership together.
And so did you guys start dating right off the bat when who won the bowling match?
Yeah, pretty soon after. I don't know. We had a dinner. We were supposed to go to a restaurant, and then for whatever reason that was closed. So came over to their house, and I guess that was the initial spark. And yeah, one thing leads to another. She had a brief stint back at school, so we,
And you competed against each other as well? Did you?
Yeah. One, it's probably my first 5-star actually was, she's ridden through 5-star as well. And it was great. Actually, Carl, her dad, said if I really loved her, I would have had another rail and allowed her to beat me. But it didn't happen.
Didn't happen that way. What's the best piece of advice that's ever been given to you for the business?
I had a woman that helped an incredible amount. Both, she's a dressage rider, Heather Mason, her name is, but also she was incredibly good with tricky horses, and initially, again, looking for an angle, an edge, a difference. The first, call it 10 years of my real standalone professional life was riding tricky horses. I still remember to the day that I talked to her and I said, "Look, I'm going to push off this academy thing and I'm just going to straight ride. So if you hear of anything, anybody need anything, I'm all on board." And she goes, "Do you really want to do this?" And I said, "Oh yeah, yeah, because it's never going to be easy." And without a doubt, she's absolutely right about that. But I think the challenge that is figuring out each of these horses, their strong suits, their weak suits, what makes them tick, and then how you can help them is, to me, is incredibly motivating and pushes you to continue to try to get better.
With all this learning, you decided to write a book.
Yeah. last thing I ever thought I'd be doing in life, that's for sure. I made it through engineering school. I think the longest paper I ever wrote was 10 pages, and it was about The Patriot, the movie. So, of course, I was never a huge bookworm by any way, shape, or form. But yeah, I had a client and good friend that we wrote an article that was kind of a very short form of the book that was profiled in Practical Horseman. And then
We happen to have that book here.
oh, perfect. Yeah, and then the publishers called me up and said, "Would you like to expand on this and write a book?" And again, in the same theme as we were talking about with the DVD and judging early on, is for sure it was a massive undertaking and absolutely put me out of my initial comfort zone. But I think I learned a lot while doing it, and then of course having that out there was just a huge asset.
How long did it take?
You know, I would say the initial draft was, call it 6 weeks, I'm guessing. I will tell you the rewrite took forever. My first draft that came back was just like pure red. Yeah, I think it was roughly 60,000 words. And yeah, it was a monumental task, but one that in the end has just been wonderful. And, it's the publishing side of it is once you put all this work into it and, you're probably a year in by the time it's actually legit getting pushed out the door. And then, the publish date comes and then it's just like you let it out and hope for the best. That's a nerve-wracking couple weeks, months, whatever, till you start to get the feedback.
You want to do it again?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, but that was a yet.
Time consuming. I mean, right now, the hardest thing, our kids are 5 and 7, so free time is without a doubt a challenge at the moment. But I wouldn't be opposed to.
And so you have 2 kids.
Yep, 2 kids. I have Hudson and Abby, so they're just turned 5 and 7.
Horse interest?
Abigail is obsessed, and we were hearing all of this week that she really needs a pony. We've been not pushing that at all.
Sorry about your luck, Dad.
I know. And I think it's one of those, because it's without a doubt a challenging task. If they are interested, motivated, and want to do it, we'll support them without a doubt. I would have no part in having them pushed into or feeling pressured into riding, because I think there's so much time, effort, everything involved. And if you're not self-driven or they're not really motivated themselves, the last thing you want to do is have them resent it,
That's true. And so what about teaching them? Would you and Jess teach them? Would you send them to somebody?
I
Would you
guess
have
initially,
somebody come in?
yeah, I don't know. It's certainly a bridge we haven't arrived at yet. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it, I think my thought, and at least how we grew up, was initially it was just fun, just bombing around bareback around the farm. So I would expect you got to enjoy it and really understand kind of the basics, what it's all about. And I think in a pretty natural way. And then if they want to get a little more precision to it, then we'll figure out a way to help them. Yeah.
I got the wonderful opportunity to spend a little time with them. And yes, they definitely love to have a good time. And, and they want to experience everything. And they think mom and dad are the greatest.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. We're very, very lucky. Yeah, and then, I don't know, Hudson, maybe he will, maybe he won't. I don't know that I was, at his age, totally driven, wanted to be out in the barn 24/7. I probably had interest in other things, but right now, it's golf and soccer that are the big thing, and airplanes. So that's the three tier right now.
So how do you balance between, married, you have a wonderful marriage, married to a great girl, and the kids, and just doing everything? They seem like they're with you constantly. They travel with you. How does the balance work?
Still work in progress, I think.
Okay.
We try our best we're very lucky right now that our profession brings us around the world, traveling, competing. And I think that's a privilege that many don't have. So if we can share that experience with the kids, we're going to try our best to make that happen. We've approached the shows themselves with them is just, just fun to be at, right? So it's a privilege for them to come. So if they're going to be grumpy and whatever, then they can stay at home. That's totally fine. But then, of course, they both have like the most wicked FOMO that they're going to miss out on something. So they absolutely love it. And we're very lucky. The group of clients, sort of barn family that we have, is super supportive of the kids, and everybody's been really wonderful and just loves to interact, and they don't really know much of a stranger for sure. They're quick to jump on and, talk to whomever it might be and tell them all about whatever's happened on the day.
So what do they think about mom and dad competing? Do they
probably just don't know any different? I mean, it's from day one. That's what we've done. So,
and is there one moment that stands out in your career greater than any other?
You'd have to say the Olympic Games. I mean, it's the pinnacle of the sport, and get the privilege of representing the U.S. and especially in the new format, only 3 people selected. Would have loved to win a medal and be last on the team, but I think when that was clear that it wasn't going to happen, ending up as the highest placed American was a huge, a proud moment. I don't know if that.
Certainly. And walk us through that when you're trying to get on the Olympic team, really of any sport. And I know that each sport is different.
Yeah.
And it used to be 4 riders that they took with a spare. Now it's 3 and a spare.
You look back to Atlanta. I mean, there was like, I don't want to totally misquote this, but it was like 3 or 4 individuals, and then the team was 4. So there was, I could be totally wrong on this, but I think there were 7 that rode back then. Yeah, with the new Olympic format, they're trying to have more flags represented, more countries represented. So they brought the team sizes down to allow more countries available to have slots in the program. But yeah, that three slot situation is really challenging.
What did you have to go through to get that done?
You need just a massive resume leading up to it, and what they're looking for most is complete reliability, that you can finish in the eventing scene, sort of finish on or very close to your dressage score, right? I mean, you have to be 100% reliable on the cross country and as close as you can be with the jumping side of it. And was very lucky with the horse Van Diver. He had done a number of 5 stars to that point without any sort of jumping penalty, really. And he was very, very competitive. Was he the winner every time out? No, but he did certainly have a lot to his name. And with that consistency and reliability, I think they found comfort in it and pulled the trigger.
And so you mentioned something a moment ago about how you had to compare with you had to keep with the dressage score. That's something that
Yeah, so you're with eventing, it's effectively the triathlon. That's you have a combined score between all 3 phases. Your baseline is your dressage score, and then the best you could do is add 0 faults from that point forward. But if you have, the one that's flashy that might go off and get a 20 on the, which would be a very, very good score on the flat, but maybe they're 70% of the cross country they're clear. Well, then they're taking quite a risk. Okay, it could hit, and that person could get the individual medal. But at the same time, if it goes wrong with 3 members, there's no drop score. So all of a sudden it could blow the team out of the water on the negative side as well. And so I think the jumping phases themselves become even more important because you don't have a drop member. You don't have a drop score anywhere.
I was fortunate to go to Mill Street, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago, and we walked the course.
Yeah.
The largest jumps I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And they were trying to walk strides. And it was just amazing because the stride, first of all, it goes from 12 to 20 instantly. I don't know how that you figured that one out. But those were the largest, most solid jumps. It's like death-defying. Right. I mean, were you ever worried?
Yeah, you get in some sticky situations. I think what brought me the most comfort, nearly all of the horses that I had at a top level, we developed from the time they were weanlings. So I knew them inside and out. had a very good feel for what their reactions, what their instincts were, how they might handle a certain situation. And in all honesty, I think the thing is you can refine a horse's technique and how they go about jumping or reading a situation or an angle or whatever it might be, but you're never going to change their instinct. And there are some that, maybe often it would be a sort of a hanging log, so an airy sort of jump with a drop landing. Anything that's going to draw their eye down. Some horses will just pop off the ground, basically get up in the air and then decide what they're going to do about it, where others will often get slower off the floor. The ones that slow off the floor, I wouldn't ride. Like, it's not worth it, because in the end, that could potentially lead to falls that don't need to happen. And so when you get to the top level, for sure, you walk this course and everything looks massive. But I know the partner I'm going out onto course with, I know worst case, he's going to just get up in the air and we'll figure it out as it happens, basically, at that point. But the failure mode is positive. It's, you've got a fighting chance at it. And
you mentioned something earlier about that many of the horses are that you've raised them. What happens when that isn't the case? So, how do you get to know this horse?
So usually what we would do over time is we'd have them start them tail into their 3-year-old year. They would compete a bit through their 4-year-old year into 5. 5 years old, you had a pretty good idea that they could end up at the international levels. We would then try to find a partner that could go either quarter share, half share, that sort of thing, to go along sort of on that journey. Been lucky to have a great group of people that have joined along. And
I was going to say, how do you find these people, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all relationships, right?
Uh-huh.
And all different places. It could be, just interpersonal relationships, or maybe people at the barn that known the horses since they were a baby, and Susan Drillock owns Quantum Leap with us, so Quantum's done 7 5-stars now, but she had known him since the time he was a foal, and we were in a position we were going to have to sell as a 5-year-old, and she said, what would it take for us to make sure that we can keep him here? And so she and Susan and of course Quantum are members of the family basically at this point. So we then say, okay, this horse has all the makings at this point that we can see. We don't see a huge weakness that's going to limit his ability to go 5-star and get to the top. And then usually by the end of their, call it 8-year-old year, if there was a limiting factor, and of course there's sometimes it's just certain situations, whatever, but you could, if I thought there was a reason that it wasn't going to work, then there's a massive secondary market, because you have then a horse going 3 or 4-star that an teenager or amateur or whomever, they don't want to go 5-star.
What's the difference between the 3, 4, and 5?
It's all size, complexity, just overall difficulty, level of precision that's needed, level of endurance that's needed. It's it gets exponentially harder, I think, as you're going, But, on a typical either junior, young rider, amateur level, that's up to maybe 3-star, I would say. And beyond that, there for sure are amateurs that go beyond that, but that field starts to narrow quite a bit. I mean, I think at 4 and 5-star, it's probably 1% of the U.S. population that's doing that, of that people that are partaking in the sport.
And did you find that the Pan Am Games was a perfect setup for the Olympic Games?
So it was a wonderful introduction to a senior team environment. I'd been on a couple nations teams in the past, but those are, the pressure is just different. And we also needed...
Why is the pressure different?
Well, we were in a situation where we needed to win there to be qualified for the Olympic Games also.
Correct.
So basically, if we had bombed out there, then the Olympics wasn't going to happen at all. And so for sure, there was more pressure there. That setup is a bit easier in that there were 4 team members with a drop score. So that was, I don't know if it takes the pressure off, but at least you have a backup plan. But going into the games there, I had a wonderful horse called Star Witness. She was actually a sort of failed show hunter first, but fabulous on the flat. And she's gone on to go through Grand Prix dressage as well. But she ended up, fourth there in Lima. And that set me up very, very well, because I think that's proof there we're in a pressure situation that team selectors understand that you're going to rise to the occasion rather than shrink from it. And I think without that experience, I would not have been selected for Tokyo.
So when you travel around the world like this and you go to all of these venues, I mean, incredible experience, especially if you get to take the wife and the kids.
Jess was pregnant when we went to Lima, and the Zika virus was pretty big, so she didn't come there. And then, of course, COVID pretty much killed everything when it came to the Olympic Games. So unfortunately, both of those trips, really no one was able to come along much.
And so other than that, though, and then obviously during that particular time, there wasn't any kind of sightseeing or seeing the world. You just get in and you get out.
Tokyo was, in Lima it was great. We were able to travel around a bit and see some of the other sports that were going on at the time. But yeah, our Tokyo experience was, it's a life-changing, biggest stage in the world, but at the same time, you're so confined. You're at your hotel, only the hotel, not able to go out from there. You're cordoned off to a room for most days. You have daily testing, COVID testing there. And
how many times did they test you?
Daily. So daily test. And that was, to me, it was probably the most taxing mentally, aside from the stress from competing. Because, if you happen to get a positive, they'd pluck you from competition, and then you're in a construction trailer for the next 2 weeks. So it's like you set your entire life up to do this. You're finally here. You're finally in the competitive arena, and then you could get plucked out the next day. So that was a lot, I thought.
So preparing for the Olympics, how do you prepare mentally and physically for that yourself, away from your horse?
Yeah. We're lucky. We have quite a big business. We have 25 horses, I would say, on a normal day. So I would be riding 10 to 12 probably per day. And then I do think biking is probably the best analogous exercise physically for me. Try not to get heavier, right? You just want lean muscle. I'm 6'3", so don't need to be any bulkier than that. So on the physical side, that mentally, that sort of thing is a challenge, because we were away from home for almost a month. We had 2 weeks of quarantine in Germany, and then flew from Germany over to Tokyo, and then we were there more or less the week prior, and then the week of competition. That's the most challenging thing, is that you're going from a typical situation where you're competing a whole bunch of different horses or riding a whole lot at home, to now you're traveling with one horse, with only that horse to think about, only that riding that you're going to do that day. And so occupying your mind in other ways can be challenging. So that was the biggest thing, is try and, I don't know if distraction's the right word, but try and get as much computer work done, or whatever it might be.
So no spare.
No spare.
And not even today, there's no spare. Isn't there today?
There could be. I didn't have a spare, right? So there is the ability to have what they call a direct reserve. So if you happen to have 2 top horses, actually the Pan Ams, I did have the luxury of that, is that Star Witness was the primary, and Van Diver, who actually went to the Tokyo Games, was the secondary. So if something had happened to her, he could have swapped in to that same team slot. But that only works up until the time that you're hopping on the plane and you're shipping over. So
what makes you laugh?
Yeah. What makes me laugh? That's a great question. I love sarcasm. I love direct, to the point. Yeah, you got to have humor in this game, because if you're dead serious all the time, I think you'd be in a ward somewhere. I think you have to enjoy what you're doing and find humor when things go wrong, because they're going to go wrong more than they're going to go right, I would say.
And what makes you angry?
People that aren't straight, if they're not straight shooting, if they're deceptive for sure, if they're not yeah, I mean, I think same thing with the horses, that I don't care if it's good news, bad news. I'd rather hear it straight than have somebody beating around the bush to, work around it some way.
And if you could describe yourself in one word, Doug, what would it be?
Probably ambitious.
I'm going to agree to that because I know you. So, where's your favorite competition?
Great question. Favorite competition that I've ever been at, or that we're...
No, yes, where you've competed at, certainly, that you'd love to go back to, or you're glad that it's in the lineup, or...
Yeah. I would say probably right now, I would say Tryon still is our absolute favorite. It's kind of second home for us. I mean, we're there probably 10 weeks a year. And it's
close to home?
Close to home. And it feels like coming home. I mean, this last year we're driving in and, one of the kids in the back, oh, it's like we're going home. I'm like, that's true. You growing up here, probably similar to them, their perception will be very similar to what I had at the USCT. It's that they've grown up there and people are so accommodating, easygoing. That whole area, the mountains is beautiful. And yeah.
So what do the kids do during the day while mom and dad are showing?
Terrorize the world now.
What?
No, they're good. They're Abigail loves being around the horses, so she's 100% the treat girl. So she's walking around giving treats to everybody, hanging out. They'll go from ring to ring. Tryon's great in that they have a sort of upper level that's segmented off from the horses, so it's quite safe for them to be around. So they might bring their scooters or borrow somebody's dog that comes along and take them for walks. And then if we're not super busy, the option there too, go down to the river, or there's so many outside activities. If we have a free afternoon, we might go hike or whatever it might be, just something a bit different, try and get them. So it's not, you're at the show 24/7. We pride ourselves, I think, in being efficient in what we do and how we operate. And we try to get everything done as quickly as we can in a efficient manner that we can then go enjoy other opportunities in life. I hate being last in the ring. I want to be first in every time. Nothing annoys me more than an open gate and, sitting there, just nothing happening.
So, all right, to be serious here, the falls, the accidents.
Yeah.
How have you experienced that?
It's going to happen, but I've been very lucky. I think one of the things I was most proud of when we finally, finished up my eventing career now is I never once had an ambulance ride away from an event. So in that way, I think without a doubt, there's luck involved. And I think what we're talking about selection, the horses, you're not going to change your instincts. So if it's not good, your health is worth far more than anything else. It's not worth riding.
Any serious?
Yeah, I mean, I had one that was, my worst. I've been knocked out once. It's, it was a horse. It was a very odd situation. It was a horse that actually was coming back from EPM, and they actually think that potentially in his throat, when the EPM is a protozoa, something. But basically, they almost get half paralyzed, basically, and then you can treat them. And he was coming back and had ramped back up in his. This was his first competition back, but I think maybe back in his throat, he didn't have complete control and sort of cut off his air pipe, and so they think, this is just a best guess really, is that he somehow cut off his oxygen supply and effectively passed out. And I just went down, pelican scooped the footing and got knocked out and sort of degloved my chin. But yeah, I mean, that's really the worst of it that I've had. I've been very, very lucky never to have a horse, really seriously injured. I mean, there is stuff that's going to happen. It's the nature of competition, nature of anything in life, right? Is that injuries will happen. But I think if you can prepare yourself well enough, that the likelihood is low. Mistakes will happen, but I try not to get wrapped up in them too quickly. If something does happen, obviously look back, try and figure out if there was a causal, something you could have seen earlier maybe that helped it out. But if you've done everything you can do, it's going to happen sometimes. You're going to fall down.
So here's the question that everybody's asking.
Yeah.
Why did you leave 3-day and decide to go into stadium?
It's been a long process. So I guess going back a bit, when in eventing itself, I did my first Grand Prix when I was 22. I had a horse that came to us that was bucking people off and jumping cross trails at the time. So he was quite a good horse and
perfect subject for the book.
Yeah, exactly, right? So he finished up, did his first couple Grand Prix, and then was moved on. So that, without a doubt, piqued my interest. But again, it was quite early. I think I was 22 at the time. And then was open to the idea of jumping, but didn't really have a string of horses, obviously, that would be in that realm, at the time of trying to get to international teams eventing. And so as they came along, our best horse right now, a horse called Quintessence, he's, I guess, turned 14 now. We've had him since he was 4. And he initially came to us to event, but as a 6-year-old was just absolutely crazy careful. And in the end, probably would not have held up to the endurance needs of eventing. But I was very lucky. Jane Dudinsky, who owned him at the time, was open to us going to just jump him instead. And so he actually went on to win the 6-year-old finals and the 7-year-old finals. And then he's won a bunch of Grand Prix and was able to do my first 5-star on him. And so with that opportunity, getting in the ring, jumping, big tracks, it's pretty appealing. It's a different challenge. Eventing is, especially say on the cross country side of it, the show jumping courses, they're getting more technical, but that's kind of definitely a newer in the last couple of years situation in the eventing world. But I think the intensity in a jumping ring is just sort of unrelenting. Yes, shorter duration, but every little change or mistake can filter down, and if you're not super quick to fix it, will make a big mess of things later on. Whereas on cross country, you have clumps of intensity followed by a long period of time to think about what's happened. So you have a water complex has 4, 5, 6 elements, whatever to it, but you've 20 seconds of intense, has to make it happen. And then you've got 30 seconds of galloping to formulate your plan for the next. So it's a different challenge. And since my interest was piqued and we had a very, just a great horse with us, we started trying to figure out, okay, maybe we can do a bit more of this. And with the kids now of an age that they're traveling with, and we would love to continue to be able to provide them with life experience that, we would just expose them as much as we can. Cutting down on the travel schedule would be a massive help, because doing both disciplines at a high level, we were on the road 40, 45 weeks a year. And so we dial that back down. We can be.
That was one of my questions. How long are you on the road for?
Forget it. It's tons, right? Yeah. So we went from certainly north of 40 weeks a year on the road, and now we can cut that back. And on a day-to-day, it's easier in the end. And it's not, without a doubt, not easier in the competitive arena. And it's not that it's easier in your thought process in training the horses, but eventing is, especially the endurance aspect, the galloping is just a lot. Cross-country schooling, you're sort of doing the triathlon. You're doing all of this stuff, trying to make sure every minute is spoken for, because there's just so much those horses have to be a master of, where this is far more focused on one thing. And with that, it allows just a lot more flexibility, freedom in developing the horses and training them. And, our day-to-day is, it's a bit more straightforward at that point.
And so 3-day, how long before you can do another event? In other words, the jumping has its own little rule of thumb. How often you jump and show your horse.
The hard part with the eventing side is that you have a top tier horse, right? You have basically 2 5-stars you could do per year, one in the spring and one in the fall. And then you have your lead up competitions, and you're pretty well locked into whatever that calendar is pretty much where you're going to be. And so you would be competing once every 2 to 3 weeks, I would say, in your lead up. But if you have a very well experienced horse, you might only go to 2 or 3 competitions before that 5-star. A greener one that's coming up in development, they might see a few more for sure. But I think, your young horse, even in there, your most you're doing a year is maybe 10 or 12, I would say, competitions. Jumping side, just be very mindful, obviously, that you're not doing too much. We try to do kind of 2 on, 2 or 3 off at that point.
Yes, so there is a difference.
Yeah, there's a difference. And it's one of those things we're still, in all honesty, still trying to figure it out, how to do this better and maximize the ability of our horses. And with this new challenge, without a doubt, I'm trying to improve my riding as well.
So you like it?
Oh, love it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always been a goal of mine to be able to show up to any discipline and not be tagged as an outsider. Like, I want to be proficient enough that I can be competitive with wherever we are going.
I've heard you say that before.
I think we're finally getting there. It's close. It's not exactly where I want to be yet, but it's getting better, and that slight chip on your shoulder that you're not quite good enough is motivating as anything.
You need to get that out of your head. Do you have a mentor?
I'm very lucky to have a great group of people, not one specific person, I think, that I can call on a frequent basis. And, with that I'm just, I think, very lucky with that. I always thought in development, even if you have the absolute best in the world and you were to train under that one person, you're never going to quite approach their skill set. And I think a diversification of ideas is really helpful to draw from. And with that, there's something that can be learned from all of them in any discipline. I mean, it could be polo, it could be the Western world, it could be, you're going to pick up little tidbits of knowledge that will apply across the equestrian world.
And so I saw a video the other day of you playing polo.
Yeah, it's great fun.
So I want to know.
I could totally be addicted to that. I got to hit the lottery first, but I could totally do it.
So who is behind you with a GoPro?
No, I was holding it myself.
You were holding it yourself.
Got a great.
So now you're going to be a photographer.
I'm a bit of a nerd with that when it comes to.
And I hear you're fearless.
I don't fearless. I take calculated risk. No, I've always been a bit of a nerd, and photo and video has been a passion of mine for a long time. But I've got a 3D camera that goes on basically a big old stick that is.
Okay, so but wait a minute. Yeah. We're talking polo here. Yeah. Okay, we're talking 2 reins.
Yeah.
We're talking a whip. We're talking about a mallet. And now you're talking about a stick with a camera on.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, it was Academy Award winning, and we're going to show that film.
Yeah, no, I got the both sets of reins. I got 4 reins in the left hand and the stick with the camera, and then mallet in the right, and off we go.
And so, how did you do that day?
I mean, first time on, I got to think it was pretty good. I mean, it was a whole lot of fun. I could see, without a doubt, you could be addicted to that. I mean, it's great fun. We're very lucky. Alan Martinez, our friend, he's a polo professional, and he was nice enough to let us ride some wonderful horses. And it's just interesting talking to him about, again, how they would develop horses. The younger ones there, where they pick and choose what games they do or how they're going to play them, and it's all the same. Well,
you sure look like you've done it before. Yeah. I would never have guessed that you were on. All right, so let's talk aircraft.
Yeah.
So you love to fly.
Love to fly.
And you have a plane.
Yeah.
And everybody's been in it.
Yeah. Jess was pregnant with Hudson, and we had, not just one. We had a number of couples saying we really need to get an RV for the kids for at the shows. So we got a place to go, air conditioned, they can get away from the show, all that kind of thing. And at the same time, Jess's father flies. I had a number of friends in Aiken that also did, that were instrumental in sort of kicking me over to take the plunge and really do it. Of course, with the mechanical engineering degree, I did a bunch of stuff with control systems for flight dynamics. So the math science side of it was appealing. And I just always thought it would be financially just not a possibility whatsoever. But then we got looking into it, and there's a great little flight school in Aiken. It was super affordable at the time. And we got looking at the plane, and for the exact same money, we were going to have to buy a truck and an RV, travel trailer. We could buy this plane. And on a per mile basis, it's the same. I mean, I think we're paying 36 cents a mile maybe, and 3 times faster than driving. So last year alone, I think we saved 350 hours of driving, which is insane.
That's insane.
So what it means to us, to Jess and I, is like, we would have obviously cut back on where we went, what we did, but we have limited time available that we are free or off or have an afternoon free that we could do stuff with the kids. And, if we can, tomorrow we're sitting here in Wellington loving this, and think we're going to go to Key West tomorrow for walk around the town and have some lunch and then fly back. It's not an opportunity if we had to drive. It's just.
And I understand the kids love it.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely love it.
I heard they love the bumps.
Yeah. So they call it up and down. So when we're usually coming into land, because Jess absolutely hates it, but the kids are obsessed, is that we'll fly a little parabolic curve so that they're weightless for a bit and they float the stuffies.
Oh, you don't.
So we kind of cruise up and we go nose over and they pop the stuffed animals up and the stuffies are floating around the plane, and that's all they live for.
So you are fearless. Okay. All right. So
the plane for us actually, again, the trade-off was either maybe convenience of the show, but then one of us was going to have to get an extra driver of one way or another. Jess didn't want to clean it. I didn't want to maintain it. And, time's a thing that you can never get back in life. And a good friend of mine, Augie Vettorino, since passed, but he said, these are time machines. And he was dead right. Like it's, I think the choice of, again, efficiently making use of the time and opportunity you have, the plane has been great. And it's a different interest, or distraction's the wrong word, but you can engage your brain in something other than horses. And I think that is incredibly useful.
Well, your brain moves pretty fast from what I have learned about you. So I can see where you would just absolutely take this on and just love
run with it. Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh. And as far as the bumps, I'll get in your plane, but I don't want to do the bumps. But what it led you to is you live in the Carolinas, and we've had some horrible tragedy there this year. So tell us how you got involved there.
Yeah. So another great friend of mine flies. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, my plane was down in annual, so I was out of commission, but Bob Wall, his name is, he actually owned a really good horse called Getaway that we rode in at Burghley in Holland on a Nations Cup team. And his daughter worked for us and rode with us for quite a long time. Anyway, so he was flying. He's got a Kodiak, so it's a turboprop single engine, but has a very sizable, useful load, so we can carry a lot of stuff. And he had flown a bunch the day prior and called up and said, would you join with to have another set of eyes on this? And because it's a lot. I think we did 7 flights that day going in and out, but it strikes you, how there was an army of volunteers that made this all happen, but there were sort of pickup points on the east side of the mountains where the weather had not been quite so bad, and had a line of cars coming in one side, had an army of volunteers that were weighing everything. So it could be a case of water, that might weigh 8 pounds, whatever. So they'll sharp you on eight on top. And then on the pilot side, we could walk in and say, our plane can carry 1,200 pounds currently. And then they would palletize 1,200 pounds worth of supplies and bring it out there, load it all up. And then they had just a big whiteboard of every local airport, which there are countless. I mean, it's shocking. People that are unfamiliar with flying, especially on the East Coast here, you've got in a 25-mile radius, probably 6 airports you could land in. And so with that, they had each airport
And
listed.
they weren't damaged.
Some were, and some weren't. But the ones that were flyable that you could land in, and they had a note in the one particular one said, okay, the last 1,000 feet is all silt. You can't use it, right? So if you know your plane's specs and what you're comfortable takeoff and landing in, distances, that sort of thing, you could choose to take it on or not, But yeah, load up and figure out what airport needed what and, make the trip out. And we had one caught wind basically of a farm that had 20 some odd horses there, that all of their feed, hay, fencing, part of the barn was all missing. And they were completely stranded. The bridge that would access that was gone. And so we did make one trip down to Southern Pines, picked up 18 bales of hay, whatever it might be, and flew it back and commandeered a skydiving plane and had them do a low pass and pushed out the jump window. They said they lost the first 2 bales in the river, but after that, they got the aim dialed in, and horses were certainly happy to see that.
And when you saw this, did you see people suffering and animals suffering? And did you get to see the dark side of all of this?
To a point. In the small airports that we went, there were volunteers there, and of course you're talking with these guys, and they said, every road is basically blocked in some way, shape, or form. Nearly every bridge is gone. And so they said for what they had access to at the moment, they could identify needs, but we weren't, there were helicopters that were literally landing on the, backyards of these people's place. From what we could see was kind of the 1,000-foot view that, it's astounding, the amount of damage, and yeah, it's brutal. But
what does it look like now? Do you know?
We flew over a couple weeks ago, and it's still, we flew over, we're going, Jess's family lives in Nashville, and we were on the Tennessee side of the mountains, and where it typically was kind of an S-shaped river, that you could still see the amount of it looks like it was clear cut, across. And in the mountains themselves, it's just, it's evident, and it will be for years, I'm sure. It's very sad because we were talking about hiking with kids. Chimney Rock was one of our favorite places to go. And, that town's pretty much wiped off the face right now.
And so did you bring anybody back, or did you run into any type of medical situation where you could?
We did not. No, we did not. But it did happen for sure.
You get a lot of family time with the family on the road, and it's wonderful that they love to do everything. But Hudson, he's not into the horses.
Yeah, I don't know that
or he likes to, or you don't know yet.
Oh, no, he likes them. Abigail would go down and just hang out in the barn for hours, right? Where he's going to probably be building his Legos or practicing his soccer or golf or whatever it might be. But I don't know that I was that, I was into it, but I think I probably was more indifferent at his age as well.
Mm-hmm.
The huge motivating factor for me was my sister beating me. And then it's like, okay, now you got to beat your sister. So then you have to get better. And then it starts to snowball at that point. So I don't know. I'm not sure that chapter's unwritten, whether, he'll jump into it or not. I don't know.
So describe to us your bond with the horses and how important it is because of the challenges in their care, the partnership that you need so much in order to do the sport.
Yeah, I think outwardly, often I think that horses are viewed as a vehicle or a piece of equipment that goes along with it. But I think at the very top, a long-established partnership will get you two both out of trouble, and I think is incredibly important to your success and to both of your health as well.
Do you have a horse that stands out in your mind more than most that you've had the opportunity to have, ride, show?
Yeah, one that would still be with us right now would be the Quantum Leap. And so he's done 7 5-stars, and he's Abigail's favorite. And so he's got a home for life with us. His days of eventing are over. He's got a hawk that's trying to fuse it. He's totally sound, but if you were to run for an 11-minute cross-country course, I think then it's probably just too much to ask at this point for him. So he's going to migrate over to the jumping side, and in a few years, he might be Abigail's horse to jump
learn
around
on.
herself, which I would love to see.
So with the 3 disciplines of 3-day, do you miss that?
No.
And
No,
why?
not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
No, because, I spent 20 some odd years, with it. And not to say that say that it gets old, but really, unless, at the top end, there's nothing like it for sure. But there's so much that goes into building the next generation. And we've, for the past 5 or 6 years, we try to have a supply of young horses coming. So we try and buy a weanling a year or breed. And that last 6 years or so has all been jumping blood. And so now it's, we've got those guys started, and that starts to get more and more exciting, and that's, yeah, I'm very content, very happy with it. Don't regret 1 minute of it, but excited and motivated moving forward. Yeah.
Toughest cross-country course that you've ever competed in?
Yeah, I guess each year they change.
Did you go to Mill Street?
No, I didn't go to Mill Street. Yeah, I guess I'd have to say Burghley because I didn't finish it. I did fall there. But I don't know. There's been, a 5-star of any location is extremely challenging. Each one has its own flavor of what makes it intense, but I don't know that you could identify just one particular course as the one that was the most challenging, because I think in the end at 5-star, you're going to need a bit of luck too, and you're going to get in a sticky situation regardless where you're at, and relying on, again, that partnership with the horses to get you out.
Out of the 3, which did you like the most? Cross-country, dressage, stadium?
They're all different. It's like picking your favorite kid.
Can't do that.
You can't do that.
Can't do that.
You
That won't
can't do
work.
that. And it all depends on the horse that you're riding too. Some have just excel in one versus the other. And of course, the one that's extremely good in that phase, well, that's a whole lot of fun.
And would you say that your childhood dreams have been met?
Yeah, for the most part. I guess as a child, you always thought that it would be great to go to the Olympic Games, but I never framed it in a way in which it was, if I didn't go, I would have been a failure. I think it's in development of horses, as with everything in life, I think it's process oriented. I think if the process is in place that will bring out an elite level competitor, then hopefully the results will soon follow. So, if I got there, great. And if I didn't, that I would have been okay too. But having achieved that goal so far has been wonderful. And now with the open door in the jumping side of it, I would love to replicate that in the jumping arena as well.
And you're on your way.
Yeah, try.
What is your most treasured horse-related possession?
I would have to say Debbie and Kevin Crowley, who owned Van Diver with us, they actually bred him as well. So it was a really special story that he had the opportunity to represent the U.S. with them. Because again, they were preconception, they were there. But they put together, after the Olympic Games, a shadow box. It must be 4x5, and 5 inches deep, but it has everything from bridle numbers to one of the shoes that Quinn was wearing,
when
and
I was at your farm.
a bunch of photos. So that probably still would rank at the top. The other, I had a horse called Crown Talisman some years prior. We bought him, again, a difficult horse, so made a barter deal and bought him for $1, and he ended up going on to a top placing in France, and then was bought over in Europe, and he really set our life up. From the sale of that horse, we were able to buy the farm that we're at, and then work to build it all to where it is today. I've got a painting of his and his 2 shoes as well that mean a lot.
So, Doug, tell me about the operation in the Carolinas, where it's at, what your day-to-day stuff, what you do.
Extremely lucky. I think we mentioned earlier about moving south. I was initially grew up in New Jersey, and Jess was in Nashville, and we basically picked the Carolinas off the map and rented for a year and change on the southeast side of Raleigh. We live now on the north side of Durham. Love the area, but location of the farm has just been absolutely ideal. We're 25 minutes from the campus of Duke and 35 to UNC and maybe 40 to...
And the city is?
We live in a little town called Rougemont, just north of Hillsborough. And 26 stalls, got a full operation, everything from hunters to jumpers at this point. We have I think one remaining event rider as well. And our normal day, obviously, Jess, unfortunately, is the school bus driver at the moment, dropping the kids off. But we try to get most of our riding done in the morning and teaching. And got a number of clients that would be either college students or professionals that are somehow into healthcare or whatever it might be in the area. And then we've got another group of clients that would meet us at shows. So we prepare the horses at home and then they'll meet us on the road.
So if I was a client coming to you and I wanted to know what was going to go on at the horse show, when I had to be there, what the deal was.
Yeah. So we we're trying to always build a better system as we go. But right now we've got a WhatsApp group that would join in with all the clients that are on the road with us at that point. So every evening we have a total, provisional schedule. Of course, things may change a bit through the day if one ring gets slowed up or whatever it might be, but we'll have a schedule listed there and a game plan to attack it. And if we've got a conflict and Jess and I are here, we might split up or might have to, move things around, shuffle them. And then once as it get rolling, it's a pretty low-key, easy environment that we like to operate, and certainly no drama at all. Like, we have very little tolerance for that. So,
how about sleep?
Sleep? Yeah, I wish there was always more, but but yeah, no, we tend to operate as efficiently as we can and try to make the most so everybody has their opportunity to succeed.
And what is your early morning like? Early to you in the horse industry, we know what early is.
Well,
but I mean,
our kids, Hudson's usually up at about 5:15 to 5:30, sometimes earlier. So he's off in our alarm clock. As far as show mornings, for the most part, first in the ring isn't till about 8. So seldom, we have got a couple hunters. So if that's the case, maybe they do need to get out a bit before. So that might make an earlier morning. But for the most part, if we're on by 7:30, that's probably a typical thing.
So how does your client feel that is the only 3-dayer?
Yeah, he's pretty chill, pretty easygoing. Goes to Elon, has a horse, did his first advanced this last year. And, the horse needed or benefited from some bit more experience jumping. So he had a semester abroad in the fall, and we actually took him jumping a bit. So he had stepped up to the meter 30s and got a lot more mileage there, which will without a doubt translate into what he's looking to accomplish.
So he actually gets a little bit of the best of both worlds then, because he can go do a 3-day
for
evening,
sure.
but he can get his time in the ring here at any show on the road that you guys are working at.
And that's kind of how we've operated the last, call it 5 years with the event horses. They'd often came with us and jumped, and preparing them at the shows, the jumper shows for the events we've found a very efficient way to make that work. And I think it's advantageous because the environment at the jumper show or WEF here is chaotic. It's a 10-ring circus, but that's something that the event horses seldom see. Often in their upbringing, they're at very small venues with not a lot going on. And then all of a sudden they get to where it really counts, and there is a lot of atmosphere. So having spent more time in a bigger environment is just a huge asset, I think, for the event horses.
Absolutely. I agree to that. What advice would you give to a young person trying to achieve their goals, where they want to go, whether it's your children, your clients' children?
Try and use it for myself today, too. It's never sell yourself short, and don't be afraid to make known a big ambition for yourself, and just don't just hold it in, right? Let people know what it is you're looking to accomplish, because I think the more people that are out there that understand what you're aiming for, even if it does seem outlandish, they're going to tend to support you, help you, and in the end, their network will also then help you. But I think if it's not outwardly projected, that you're never going to receive the help that you could have had, and just keep fighting for it.
That's great. And don't lose your desire.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But let it be known what you were looking for. Great. And where do you go to hunt for your horses?
More often than not, they tend to find us. I don't know. We do, because I think we've established a very long track record of developing horses. We do get in touch with breeders quite often. Most of the horses that we have or the ones that I've been most successful with have all been domestically bred. And with that relationship with the breeder, we often would then go back to them, and that trust and relationship is established, and, keep going back. And
So it's a breeder.
well, we have a number that we have worked with, but yeah, one, yeah.
And do you have a personal motto, a catchphrase that you kind of live by each day, or?
What doesn't kill you will only make you stronger.
Yeah, it's a good one, huh? And what's your biggest love of the sport?
It's just a relationship with the horses. When that light bulb finally goes off and they finally get it, and then the horses end up getting the recognition that I think they often deserve but don't receive, that's always probably the best part.
And where do you think the industry is going?
It's a big challenge. Because I think it's we're in a state in society of instant gratification, and if you can pay enough to get in the door and go with it, that is often the path that people would like to choose. And I think with horses, a timeline never works. And especially if you're looking to compete it doesn't matter at what height, but have a certain level of proficiency, there's just a lot of time and effort and dedication that's required to get there, where straight off just trying to buy it is not going to work. And so with that, I think you're starting to see a smaller and smaller number of true horsemen that are there to understand the horses and try and figure it out, and then maybe at some point then have the experience then to help others do the same. And I think that aspect is a huge challenge.
And do you think our Olympic Games will continue?
I personally think that jumping will stay the longest. But I think eventing, I know they say it's in for LA. I'd be shocked if it's in after that.
And the reason being you feel this way?
I think it's all unfairly so. I've spent my last 10 years on safety committees for the USCA and helping as best we can with the frangible technologies and safety innovations. But I think they're quickly getting wrapped up into welfare concerns and wrapped up similar to what racing is seeing. And I think the jumping side is in many ways easier on the horses' bodies. And not that you would never have an injury, but certainly the severity is frequently less. And so, the jumping is just a better, more packageable sport for somebody walking off the street. They can come in for 2 hours, pretty easy and understand what's happening. They can walk away knowing the winner. And that I think is a huge challenge with both straight dressage and then also with the eventing, is that it's often difficult to tell what's really happening. I mean, the educated fan base for sure will completely understand and enjoy it, but for commercialization, I think that's a big challenge. And with the land concerns, I mean, that's the other thing, especially on the eventing side. Jumping and dressage, not near as challenging, I don't think, but, a cross-country course, just a crazy amount of time, money, effort, resource heavy for something that'll run one day. It's, I could see an Olympic Games dropping that pretty quickly.
And where would you say our biggest improvement in the industry is needed?
Some sort of, and we do try our best to do it, but if basically the kid that doesn't have the resources, that shows talent and shows ability and drive, I think support for those sort of the next generation of top trainers, that's the biggest challenge right now, I think, is, I would not, as a kid in how I grew up, we were very lucky to have the knowledge base to draw from. But if I didn't have, if my mom wasn't who she was and didn't understand what she understood, there's no way I would be in the position I'm in now because we could never have afforded the training required.
I have a question about your mom.
Yeah.
So she had to recuse or decided to recuse herself as being an Olympic judge when you competed. How did that work in the family?
Yeah, that was okay, actually, because she, generally speaking, judges are only to judge one Olympic Games. She had actually already done 2. So she's already an outlier in that regard. So while the recusal's there, she had already done more than just about anybody. She's judged at every 5-star in the world. And
Was she disappointed?
no.
Probably elated that you're there.
Exactly,
Right, exactly.
And
right?
she's already
It's a
done it
trade-off.
twice. So it's,
Okay.
you know.
And so you've talked about a change that could be made. And yes, I see that too. There's so many kids with talent, but no money.
Yeah. So
and
hard.
It's very, very hard. So if
You know, and the thing is, no money, no, you know, with the talent, the hardest thing, it's a bit chicken or the egg, right? You have to get in the ring to get experience to then warrant, you know, the support or, you know, outside support that's going to come follow you and support you. But, you know, even that person, I would say decades ago, could find a pretty inexpensive young horse and give it a shot. And that's becoming increasingly challenging.
And how hard is it to find help?
It's still pretty hard. It's still pretty hard. But you know, the good ones, we're very, very lucky right now. We've got a great group that's with us. And I think the area we live just north of Durham, North Carolina is a wonderful area because there's a huge influx of, you know, young talent. And we're at like a 50-50. I think for every 2 that we hire, probably 1 works out, but that's probably about right.
That's true. That's absolutely true. So if you didn't do this, Doug, and I know you talked early on that you might have gone into engineering.
Yeah.
Would you still do that if you weren't doing this today?
I mean, at this stage, I'd probably somehow go into flying. I don't know in what
I
form.
thought you'd say that.
Yeah, I don't know in what form exactly, but I'd probably be flying in some other small business ideas. I don't know exactly.
Any regrets? Anything you'd like to change?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's a good thing.
Not yet.
And are we satisfied with 2 children?
Oh yeah, yeah. 2's perfect number. The 3, we'd have to get the bigger car, the bigger plane. Like,
That's right. It would change
so
everything,
manageable.
right?
Yes.
So what's on the horizon for you?
Well, we're lucky enough to have 3 international jumpers at the moment. And so at this stage, I'm looking to replicate the pipeline and eventual success in eventing. I'm trying to replicate that now to jump. And so I feel like I'm still in the initial phases of just getting honestly proficient and competitive in the ring, you know, and with this group of 2 super talented horses that have gone through 5-star now, but, you know, and looking 5 years down the line, we've got some exceptional young ones coming and everything learned. It's an iterative process, right? So you get to the top with the first horse and then you know you're made mistakes with that first one that you fix for the second and third, fourth, fifth, and it should build a better mousetrap every time up. So if in the next couple of years I could, you know, take a shot at a Nations Cup team or, you know, something along those lines, I would love that. And long term, I'd love to represent the U.S. on a big stage again.
And your biggest challenge right now in order to try to do that is what?
Financial side's really difficult. You know, it's, you know, having the ability to both develop or acquire talented horses is just a massive financial undertaking.
Plus hard to find.
And hard to find, even if you have the money, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's the biggest challenge is finding, developing partnerships and, you know, support that could join the journey and join in to hopefully go to, you know, the best places in the world. You know, it's a wild ride, but it's one that we're, you know, looking obviously to continue to develop further.
A client who aspires to do this, comes to you, got a little bit of talent, but yet they're, you know, long way to go. How do you proceed with them, and what do you ask them to do at that moment? I mean, I guess it really depends upon what kind of horse they have and so forth.
What are their goals? Their goals, their goals being to be a international competitor.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they've got the drive and the ambition, they've got to, in the end, ride as many horses as possible, many different types as possible, because I think they're having the diversity and experience will help you tremendously in the arena, because even if you know your one horse like the back of your hand, there's going to be a situation where it might be outside of the scope of what you've experienced to this point, and maybe you can draw from another experience you had on another horse. And in a professional aspect, you've got to be able to get on any horse and figure them out quickly and be able to help, whomever owns or rides that horse, how to work with them better. So that's a massive challenge, and one that I think is, if you have to be critical of the industry as a whole, I think there's not that many people that could get on any type and honestly help them in a short order.
What do you think the hardest thing about learning to ride is? I know you got to think back on this.
Yeah,
Go back in the day, right?
It's a bit, you can't teach feel, right? So it's one of the things it's only going to be developed through time and effort and energy and some natural talent, of course, right? But yeah, the time required to really acquire that knowledge base that you can go back on is just tremendous. And if you're doing a once a week lesson, it's not going to do it. That's true. You can certainly improve without doubt. But if you really want to be the best, you've got to be living in the saddle.
Well, you both have incredible family support. I mean, our short period of time that we spent with you in the summer, it's amazing. Everybody's, got their own situation, but they're all driven and they all have desire. They've all got great stories.
Right.
Great stories. Lots of fun to be with. And you guys travel all together. I mean, do you get the opportunity to see your sister competing, or do you compete at the same places? Or
we have in the past, but those opportunities now are going to be far less frequent because she's purely eventing. She doesn't jump at all. And so now if I don't have any event horses, that's going to be a lot more challenging to see her competing. But for sure, we grew up showing together.
And what about Jess? She's left the eventing world as well.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, just with the kids in school, it's been pretty challenging.
Yes. Who's teaching them on the road?
Yeah. Everybody that's home.
Right.
Generally speaking, we'll take a whole, probably a large percentage on every trip we do take. So there'd be a handful that are home. And just now with the kids in school primarily will be home more frequently than not. And so she's able to cover that time frame that we're there.
So what do you want the world to know about Doug Payne?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I don't have
that for you.
I don't have a great answer for you. I think it's I guess the biggest thing would be it's through just a tremendous amount of hard work and dedication that I feel like we're finally getting there, but it's still feel a long way to go.
I think I would answer that as, don't look over your shoulder because I'm right behind you.
Yeah, I like that.
That's very good. I want to thank you, Doug, so much for sharing your time today and traveling all this way. I hope you have a great show this next week and have a great time in Key West. I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this segment as much as I did. I learned a little bit more about my friend Doug, and I can't wait to see what he conquers next. So stay tuned, and there'll be a whole lot more coming. Hello, everyone. I'm Jill Martin, and this is Worth the Price of Admission. Thank you for joining us today. If you'd like to see more of my shows about extraordinary people with amazing journeys, please come to my website, worththepriceofadmission.com. There you can discover shows that resonate with the themes we explore here on Worth the Price of Admission. And don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. By subscribing, you will be the first to know about new shows, exclusive content, and special events. It is the best way to stay connected and ensure you'll never miss a moment of inspiration. So if you're ready to explore the stories that shape our world, please visit worththepriceofadmission.com. Remember, every story is worth the price of admission, and we can't wait to share more with you.